We're with John Kelly. John is a personal injury attorney in Phoenix, Arizona, and we had some online questions related to trucking accidents and semi-truck accidents. So with that said, I'm going to go to the questions that were posted, and John can answer the question. The first one was from Richard. Richard said, I was in an accident with a commercial truck. The driver looked like he hadn't slept in days. Are there rules for how long the commercial truck driver can drive before he has to get off the road?
Yes, actually there are rules, and there are federal rules and typically state rules too for truck drivers. They're actually required to keep a log of the amount of time that they've been on the road. And if they cross over too much time, they can be fined and actually cited for that by the police. So this is actually a big issue in truck accident cases, because oftentimes these companies or even the employees who are driving push to be on the road further and longer. And, you know, they're making the money, but they're not being safe. And that becomes a big issue for a claim. If we find out that he was on the road for way too long, he was sleepy, caused an accident, that he could be held liable, his company could be held liable, his insurance company is obviously going to be looked into for a claim. So definitely that's something I always get an investigator working on gathering some of that evidence of truck accidents, because they're very complicated cases typically.
Okay, next question was from Fran. Fran says, I was hit from behind by a semi-trailer. The truck driver said he had no choice because if he hit his brakes, his load would have smashed through the back of his cab and killed him. Does this mean he wasn't negligent?
For Fran, I don't believe he should rely on the truck driver to determine what caused the accident. With any kind of truck accident, the police are going to do an accident reconstruction. So they're going to have someone, and hopefully someone who's experienced, go out there and do measurements, talk to witnesses, take photographs, do graphs and diagrams, and determine how this accident happened. Typically with a truck accident case, there's, you know, a lot of physics and motion that's involved that can cause the accident. I find the truck driver's scenario very hard to believe, so I would tell Fran that he probably needs to hire an attorney to start helping review the reports, getting their own witnesses and investigation going to establish a claim against that truck driver.
Okay, next question was from Steve. Steve says, I was driving on the highway and was struck by rubble that flew off the back of a truck hauling construction materials. The debris broke my windshield and caused me to hit a guardrail. Is the trucking company liable for the damage?
For Steve's situation, it is definitely possible that the trucking company could be held liable for flying rubble off of a truck. You know, there's a lot of regulation and how the truckers are, you know, how their hauls, how big their hauls are, how they're secured, the maintenance of the truck to make sure that it's safe. If there's things falling off the back of the truck, there's something wrong. And this actually is a pretty common way that people are injured. So again, there's going to be a report that should look into that aspect of how it happened. But there's a lot of other things that we could do to investigate the company to see if it's something that runs company-wide, if there's safety protocols that they're failing to implement, if they're not maintaining their trucks in a safe manner and replacing parts and keeping them up to date, if their drivers are, you know, not driving properly and causing, you know, maybe speeding and those kind of things can cause things to fly off the back. So there's a lot of issues, again, that we would need to investigate to determine, but definitely there is a claim against that company there.
Okay, and the last question we had was from Marvin. Marvin said, my car was hit from behind by a commercial truck. The driver said his brakes failed. He also said he's not because another company handles his truck.
It's possible that the driver would not be liable if his brakes failed, but then you got a question of, you know, who is liable? And, you know, he's going to have some kind of responsibility to maintain the vehicle and to not rear end someone, but also the company and maintaining the parts and maybe the manufacturer of the parts. There's a lot of different scenarios. Again, in this case, especially with a brake failure, there needs to be an expert that goes and takes a look at those brakes. And typically I'll hire an expert to go out there before that truck has been fixed, get out there and look at that part to see if it had been replaced, why the brakes failed, how that caused, what effect that had on the accident, and do everything we can to establish a claim to make sure that that the company, if they had some failures there, will be held responsible for the injuries.
Excellent. If you have any other questions for John, just post them in the comments section below the YouTube video. He's agreed to get back with answers. So thanks, John.
Thanks, Ryan. Yes, I can be reached at any time at my office, Kelly Law Team, at 602-283-4122.
Thank you.